So hi everyone, by the way, my name is Skinny Grace Endo, and for today we're gonna talk about the life of Tantalus and Niobe and Agamemnon and his children. So our subject for today is about the mythology, and so let's try to getting now about who is Tantalus in Greek mythology. So in the beginning of the story, this mythical feature who some historian think it may have been inspired by a real person was the king of legend what was the king legendary known as Leplus. Like many other deistic figures who play fundamental role in Greek mythology, he had semi-divine heritage and the father of Niobe and Pelops. His mother was named Pluto and his father was Zeus. So this time, si Tantalus is being is one of the children of Zeus. Living in the West Asia, somewhere around the Turkey today, he was famed for his wealth and power, which is Tantalus. Like other kings in the Greek mythology, he was aware of his power and a degree of arrogance followed by suits that would become a problem. Offending the gods. To earn his punishment, Tantalus would end up seriously offending the gods. Would he do it? There are actually three different stories in Greek mythology that shows Tantalus disrespect the hubris. But all begins with him being invited to dine with the gods. In this era, the first generation of mortals are allowed to eat at the table of gods on the Mount Olympus. In the first version of the story, Tantalus steals the nectar and ambrosia serves only at this divine table of smuggles. It became to the world to share with other mortals. Bringing the food to the gods, to the humanity, threatened to upset the balance between the mortal and the immortal worlds. In the second version of the story, he stirred up the conversation among the mortal guests among the gods' plans for the humanity. Through this, he gets the gods' secret out of them and take those secrets back to the immortal world and share with the humanity. This also threatens to upset the balance of cosmic power and also violate the divine mandates of being a good host guest, something ordained by the Zeus himself. So here we go in the third and most popular version of the story is the most outrageous. In this one, Tantalus is curious how astute and observant the gods are. So this time, Tantalus is trying to trick the gods. And so let's find out. So he decided to put them to the test, which is never a good idea. Tantalus murdered his own son, Pelops. If you remember, Tantalus has two children, which is Niobe and Pelops. So this time, he murdered his own son, which is Pelops, dice him up and cook him into a stew. He tries to serve his horrifying to the gods. All of gods realize the trick and do not eat, except for one. The goddess Demeter is extremely distraught because her daughter has been abducted by Hades. So, he has some stew and end up eating Pelops' shoulder. So, she has some stew and end up eating Pelops' shoulder. The gods are understandably upset with Tantalus, who has now committed the sins of being a bad host and hubris as well as cannibalism, the king killing. The gods bring Pelops back to life, put him back together, replacing his shoulder with ivory since Demeter has eaten it. Before we will proceed to the Niobe's story, as you can see here, this is a picture which is the family tree of Zeus and the descendants of Tantalus. So let's proceed. And Niobe's life. The tragic tale of Niobe is one of the most memorable Greek myths. For Niobe's story featuring a striking example of consequences of hubris, a Greek term defined as arrogant or excessive pride, this myth was popular in ancient literature, poetry, and art. Therefore, it is not a surprise that the legend of Niobe appears in one of our oldest and best sources of Greek myths, the Iliad and the Homer. Okay, the beginning of the story, the tragic tale of Niobe is one of the most poignant in Greek mythology. Her father was Tantalus, king of the town above Mount Liplus in Anatolia. But he do not know exactly who her mother was, Niobe. Niobe had two brothers, Brotes and Pelops, but in the previous discussion, Tantalus has only introduces two children, which is Pelops and Niobe. But this time, Niobe has two brothers, Brutes and Pelops, who would later be a legendary hero and would give his name to Peloponnes. Niobe grew up. She got married to Amphion, king of Thebes. His was turning point in her life, and a series of tragic events followed. To give her distinct place in one of the most tragic dramas in the Greek mythology, Niobe and Amphion gave birth to 14 children and 7 sons and 7 daughters. So the fatal mistake of the horrible crime. A ceremony held in honor of Leto, the mother of the divine twins, Apollo and Artemis, who was also living in Thebes. Niobe, in a fit of arrogance, bragged about her for 14 children. In fact, Niobe said that she was superior to Leto, as she had 14 children and not only 2. When the twins knew this insult, they got enraged at once, came down to earth to kill the children of Niobe. Apollo, the god of light and music, killed all 7 of Niobe's sons with his powerful arrows in front of their mother's eye. Although Niobe was pleading Apollo to feel mercy for her last surviving son, Apollo's letter arrow had already left his bow to find it marks with deadly accuracy, thus wiping out all the male descendants of Niobe. Artemis, the virgin goddess of nature and hunting, killed Niobe's 7 daughters with her little arrows, and their dead bodies were lying unburied for 9 days. So, turning into rock. Devastated by slaughter for his children, Amphion committed suicide. Some versions say that he too was killed by Apollo when he tried to avenge his children's death. And so it was that Niobe's entire family had been wiped out by the gods in matters of moment. And in a deep anguish, she ran to Mount Liplus, which is the kingdom of Tantalus, which is his father. His father. There she pleaded gods to give end in her pain. Zeus felt sorry for her and transformed her into a rock, make her feelings of stone. However, even as a rock, Niobe continued to cry. Her endless tears poured forth as a stream from the rock, and it seems to stand as a moving reminder of a mother until her mourning. To this day, Niobe is mourning for her children, and people believe that her faint image can still be seen grave on a limestone rock cliff of Mount Liplus, with the water that seeps out to the porous rock bearing a strong allusion to her ceaseless tears. The meaning of the myth or the mythology. The tragic tale of Niobe is centered of the consequences of hybris, a strange concept in the Greek antiquity, which said that if you act with arrogance toward the gods, then you will be punished. Actually, Niobe's story is a classic example of a wrath of gods against human weaknesses, and has been beautiful narrated in Homer's Iliad. The tale of Niobe also find mentioned the Metamorphoses, a native poem written by the renowned Roman poet Ovid, whoever was inverted the traditional concept order and portrayed the desires and conquest of the gods with elevating human passion to a higher level. So, that is the end of the story of Niobe. So, pain. So, I think sa kanak na sitwasyon, no, so, kung inga naman ka nang mahitabo, maybe, I think that is so hard to imagine that your 14 children will be killed in front of you in just two person, which is, the higher gods and goddesses in Greek mythology. And I think that is so sad to think about it. So let's proceed to the Agamemnon and his children. So oh my gosh, my topic is all about children's family like that. So let's find out what was the story, or what is the characteristic and how this Agamemnon involved in Greek mythology. Agamemnon in Greek religion, king of Mason or Argus. Sorry if I read it correctly or not, but he was the grandson of Atreus, king of Mason, and his wife Aerope, and was the brother of Menelaus. After Atreus was murdered by his nephew Aegisthus, son of Theseus, Agamemnon and Menelaus took refuge with Tyndareus, king of Sparta, whose daughter Centimetra and Helen. They respectively married by Centimetra, Agamemnon and his son Orestes, and the three daughters of Iphigenia, Ep- Epi, Epianassa, Electra or Laodice, and Chrysothemis. Oh my gosh. I don't think so if I read it correctly, but my gosh, I think there are some words, and I don't think so if that's correct. I just read it based on my um I don't think so. But proceed. Agamemnon begins with a watchman on a duty on the roof of the place of Argus, waiting for a signal announcing the fall of Troy to the Greek armies. And Bacon flashes, and he joyfully runs to tell the news of Queen Sen Clytemnestra when he is gone. The chorus, made up to old men of Argus, enters and tell the story of how the Trojan prince Paris stole Helen, the wife of the Greek king Menelaus, leading to the recalls of Clytemnestra's husband Agamemnon, Menelaus' brother, sacrificed their daughter Iphigenia to the goddess Artemis to obtain a favorable wind of a Greek fleet. The queen appears, and chorus asks her why she was ordered sacrifices of thanksgiving. She tells them that the system of Bacon's has brought word that the Troy filled the previous night. The chorus gave thanks to the gods, but wonder if her news is true. The chorus gave thanks to the gods, but wonder if the news is true. A herald appears and confirms the tidings, describing the army suffering at Troy's and giving thanks for the safe homecoming. Clytemnestra sent him back to Agamemnon's to tell her husband to come swiftly, but before he departs, the chorus asks him for news of Menelaus. The herald replies, and the terrible storm seized the Greek fleet of the way home, leaving Menelaus many other missings. So, this time, murag daghan jud siya yung mga names nga medyo risod siya i-pronounce. So, proceed. The cross sings for the destructive power of Helen's beauty. Wow. Agamemnon enters riding in his chariot with Cassandra, a Trojan princess whom he asked take this slave as a concubine. Centimetres welcome him, professing her love, and orders a carpet of purple robes spread in front of him and as he enters the palace. Agamemnon goes coldly towards her and says that to walk on the carpet would be act of hubris. A dangerous pride, she bargs him into walking on the robes. However, he enters the palace. The chorus experiences a sense of forbidding, and Sentimentus come outside to order Cassandra inside. The Trojan princess is silent, and the queen lives in her frustration. When the Cassandra begins to speak, uttering incoherent prophecies about the curse on the house of Agamemnon, she tells the chorus that will see their king dead, says that she will die as well, and predict that avengers will come. After these bold predictions, she seems resigned to her fate and enters the house. The chorus fears grow, and they hear Agamemnon's cry out in the pain from inside as they debate what to do. The doors open and Clytemnestra appears standing over the corpse of her husband and Cassandra. She declared that she has killed him to avenge Epigenia, Epigenia, and then is joined by her lover Aegisthus, Agamemnon's cousin, whose brother were cook and served to the Aegisthus' father by Agamemnon's father. They take over the government, and the chorus declares that Clytemnestra's son Orestes will return from exile to avenge his father. So the story of Agamemnon, one thing that I just understand is he sacrificed his own daughter, which is Epigenia, for the diba? So I think this is maybe the end of the story of my Greek mythology discussion. The Tantalus, Niobe, and Agamemnon. So one thing that I just the word for Tantalus is being abusive for the favor of his father Zeus, while Niobe is excessively have a pride and sacrificing as well, and Agamemnon is being a selfless father, like that. So for today, this is the end of my discussions, and see you next time. This is your Queenie Grace Endo, and bye!